What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Grief Bully Podcast. I am your host, J.Nicole. Today is Monday, July the 26th. We are back in the studio, rocking and rolling, episode 102. Guys, I am feeling amazing. I'm feeling grateful. And I'm feeling excited because I am not by myself. I do have a guest with me today, and I'm certainly looking forward to this conversation. It's been a long time coming. I've got a childhood. I'm talking third grade. Man, listen, I don't know the last time I saw this young man. He's not really a young man. He's like a grown man with like this, yo, what's up kind of voice, right? So I knew him. I'm going to put him out there. I know him as Stevie Franks. Quiet, art, just gifted in that way to himself. But this guy now I have on my show with me today, my special guest is Stevie Franks. Yeah, South Jersey, alongside lyricist, rapper, positive, just an amazing guy, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Stevie Franks, what is up?
What's good, man? You gotta chill, man. I got red on. I can't get red. I might start blushing. All the
yeah,
good
if you're watching this, yeah,
you gotta relax. But thank you for the excellent introduction. Word is born.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. You take. I told you I'm not going to talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, so listen. So we've got two talkers on the show. You know, if you watch the podcast, if you listen to it, then you know that I can talk. I do episodes by myself frequently where I'm consistently just speaking. So he warned me that there will be a lot of chatty, which is shocking because in school, a man of few words. I'm telling you right now, when our friends, when people that we grew up with and went to school with, when they see this, they're going to be like, wow, he really... But that's what his voice sounds like?
I know it's going to be a shocker to a lot of people. But it's funny. I said that on the way. I was like, yo, people probably going to be tripped. I can't curse. So.
Right. Try to keep it clean.
Yeah, see, look, I knew.
Try to keep it clean.
People probably going to try to be tripped out. Like, huh? Like, it's going to throw people off. Yeah,
but that's a good thing, though. And I think especially with you being an artist and for people who know you just as Stevie Franks, it shows a different level, a different dimension of yourself. Mm-hmm. So he's doing positive things. We're from the same community. He sees what I'm doing. We wanted to connect with each other. I'm like, yo, I've got this opening. I want you to come through and we're going to talk. But I said to him, well, what's your grief? Because this is the thing. There can be people who want to have a conversation, but when they really know what we're going to talk about, it could be like, I don't really know. But what you said to me was something that I really respected. You're like, my whole life's been grief.
Yeah, nah, for real.
Right? And that's a shock to me. And so while we haven't seen each other in so many years, you said since high school, should I date us and say how long that's been?
Hey, man, listen,
it's about 17 years.
It's been wild, man.
That's crazy.
I don't like to put a stamp on age because to me, I feel like we're immortal in our own way. I want to be immortalized. Everything I do, I want people to remember from here now until I'm gone. So I'm not even thinking about age. To me, I feel like, African American people, we like fine wine anyway. We get better with time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe in that age factor. I'm better. You like, oh, you old head? Nah, I'm better, bro. Chill out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he's better, and I'm gonna agree with it because I think I'm getting finer as I get older, right? So I'm keeping my young. So it's been a long time. So when you said that, I'm like, wow, I'm gonna actually be learning your story also because you know people when they're younger, but then there's that gap of time that you don't know.
Right.
And so recently, actually, you posted a post and you had a new song come out. We'll talk about that. We'll get into that. And you talked about all of the things that you've kind of been through. And so you talked about jail, you talked about prison, you talked about being robbed, you talked about all these different things. So let's kind of dive into that. And I think it's important because, one, as you being a black man and being on the show, I love that. I love to have this authentic conversation. But what I'm learning is that a lot of people only associate grief with death. So it's really just with loss of loved ones and not so much the sorrows that we go through. And so you being a young black man at some point, now you're a little bit more seasoned, a finer black man.
Listen, man.
And just some of the things that you've been through, because it did take me off guard. I never knew you had this street life to you. So let's kind of get into that.
I'm gonna tell you where it stemmed from. So see, a lot of people don't know, I didn't really live too far from you. I grew up on Lundy, but I partially grew up in my grandmother's house. She lived on Charleston Avenue. I knew certain stuff that was going on, but I really didn't because Lawnside is different. It's more private. People kind of keep their business to themselves. Everything's not out in the open. But as I got older, I started realizing certain stuff. Like Never forget. Matter of fact, I think I was like in fourth or fifth grade. I had these neighbors, and they were young, and they had jewelry, they had nice cars, and they used to always throw these big parties every Saturday. And I told my mom, I want to be like them when I get older. My mom was like, no, you don't. She was like,
Right.
they live with their mother. No, you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? But at the time, like, what do you mean live with their mom? Like, so, but at the time, I didn't understand is that she didn't want me to be like them because of what they were doing and what they were involved in. And it's crazy because years later, I ended up being tight with those dudes that I ended up looking up to. And I fell into what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? But I just think it just came from, the fact of independence. I realized that when you win that life, you can create your own future and your own destiny if you like that. You feel what I'm saying? Other than that, you're gonna be following and doing what everybody else wants you to do. The thing about it was that I was the young boy, and they knew me from just being this little, and they knew my pops. My pops is the type person, they had a dirt bike and everything was broke, and they had a flat tire on their bike. My pops would go around and fix it. So
Gotcha.
everybody knew my pops. So it was like when I was outside, they like, oh, that's little Mike. Like, nah, he good money. You know what I mean? I know but I was still the same way, quiet, stayed to myself. I wasn't really around like a lot of people like that. And I wanted money. You know what I'm saying? What it stemmed from was me being the oldest in my household. I'm not the oldest sibling, but I'm the oldest in my household. I got an older brother and I got an older sister.
I was gonna say, wow, that's actually learning something new too. 'Cause I always thought it was yourself, your younger brother, and your younger sister.
Right. My older brother, he just turned 40. The crazy part about my sister is I didn't meet my sister till I was 14. No, 15. I'm sorry, 15. I didn't meet her till I was 15. She was kind of like the infidel, trying to hide situation. That kind of I feel for her now. I understand her, but she didn't want me being around like that. Meaning like she hated my existence. You feel what I'm saying? Because she had to be hidden, and she felt like she wanted to get to know me. And she felt like we didn't want to know her because of how she was around, but we didn't know because he never told us about her. How she was discovered, my mother found her picture on the front lawn when she was cutting the grass.
Wow.
And it had "Love You, Daddy" on the back of the letter. And it's crazy because...
So your dad was actually active in her life. And you guys just didn't know. So I thought it was like you all found out, including your dad, when you were 15. So he knew. He was just taking care of his other life.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
Like, see, the thing about it was my sister, she older than me. So when I was born, my mother they were dating, but my mom was in school. So how it is, man. When you're young, you're doing whatever you're doing. She might be away in school, but you still feel like you want to do what you want to do.
Right.
That's where my sister came from.
Gotcha.
And, my mom, she's always been the woman that she is, like a great woman. So my father, he ain't dumb. He already knew, like, I'm not going to go deal with that just because I made a mistake. Like, nah, like,
right.
You know what I mean? So that's what started that. And the reason why I say I was always like the oldest in the household was because I was taught responsibility real young. Like, when I was young, I learned, how to cook. I learned how to iron clothes. I used to cut grass for little money to go buy my little toys and models and all that, comic books. You know what I'm saying? I used to bag bags at the supermarket when my father was there working. So I learned how to hustle real early. You know what I mean? For the things that I wanted, for the things that I couldn't afford. That's what it stemmed from, doing other stuff. You know what I mean? But I learned real early what it was to get $1, and I realized there wasn't nobody gonna give it to me. And it's crazy because from the outside looking in, you think, he got 2 parents, he good, like he not going through nothing, but it's not even like that. My father was a maintenance man, you feel me? And my mother, she was having a full-time job, but she was going to night school. So, that really didn't leave a lot of money and a lot of time. I'm not saying my mom was a bad parent. Not saying my father was neither, even though he had issues, but it just is what it is.
Well, what I like about this, this conversation is it's a great example of the outside looking in. Uh-huh. And so because we have known each other for so long, and I've known you, and I've been able to see your life. I know where your grandparents' house is, I know where your house is, and from somebody who wasn't raised in the same house with both of my parents and all these things. Yeah, I'm like, I'm never thinking that Stephen Forrest has a struggle. I'm thinking like, man, he's got his grandparents. He can hit the grandparents right here. He's coming home from school. His parents is here.
Right.
You know, his mom, you know, all of these things. And so I think that's really important because we have young people that are going through grief and problems and things like that, but we don't see that because we don't really know what that looks like. And how do I know what you're going through? I'm just like, yeah, he's just doing his thing.
That's another reason why I was quiet, because at home I had to be somebody that I didn't want to be, meaning like I wanted to be a child. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be a kid. I didn't want to have all that that responsibility that I had. Every mistake that I made, you better not do that because your sister looking at you, your brother looking at you. So I had to, instead of going out and doing other stuff that other kids was doing, or even like when I became a teenager, like 14, 15 years old, I couldn't go and do all the regular stuff that other teenagers were doing. I had to be home watching them. You know what I'm saying? Or I was worried about getting money. So it wasn't like a lot of good portion of my childhood was like I couldn't be what I wanted to be, and it made it hard for me to be a kid. So that was another reason why I was so quiet, was because I felt like ain't nobody want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? And the only outlet that I had was like art and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's why I drew a lot. That's why I ain't talk a lot. And you know, it's funny because when I was younger, and every time I expressed like my feelings, you know, my father would tell me, "Don't say that," or "Shut up." Like, what are you stupid? What are you dumb? So I didn't get old enough to the point where I started to rebel. Like, no, nigga, you stupid. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a lot. Sorry, excuse my language. But yeah, I was wilding. But I just feel like everything always leads up to that. So really, when I was in a high school, I met somebody in there that had connections into the streets, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew I wanted clothes, I wanted jewelry. It was just little dumb stuff went back then, you know what I mean? And I realized that would do it. But what stopped it was when I started seeing how real it could get, and I paused for a second. But then when I graduated high school and I went to trade, because I didn't go to college, I went to trade school. So when I went to trade school, you know, it's expensive. It ain't, you know what I mean? I didn't have no real crazy scholarship and none of that stuff like that. You know, my mom, she was coming out of pocket. And a lot of stuff that I needed from when I was going to school, she couldn't provide for it. So, you know, not to be, you know, ignorant, but I felt like everybody in school was getting high. So I didn't smoke. I didn't know what it was. I started smoking later, but I didn't know what that was like. So I'm like, I'm putting two and two together. The people that's around me, like, yo, ain't nobody never around. And it's funny because the dudes who I was around, they were doing the activity, but I'm in school trying to get away from that. But to me, I was like, you know what? They have it. It's right here. I could take this and I could turn this into that. And I could still go to school and I could still play. Like I could go to work part-time so my mom won't be getting on me. So that's how I got into it. Then snowball effect. One thing started turning to another. The thing I say about it is that I'm glad that I graduated the trade school and I got my associate's degree, at least at that. Because I don't know how. Because I want to say from my sophomore year on, I wasn't focused at all. Like it was just more so I was in survival mode. So a lot of this education stuff I kind of missed out on a little bit, and it's crazy because when I graduated school, it was like that. It didn't even exist. I like forgot, and I was just knee deep, and it just took a lot for me to have to turn around. I think it was my mom. Seeing her hurt from what I was going through made me not want to entertain that no more, and I just realized like.
What was she hurt about? You were getting in trouble? Like, was it like
no? I mean, it was just like, you know, one thing that I say my grandmother always told me to do is when you do something, do it to the best of your ability. And it's subconsciously, I knew I didn't want to sell drugs. I knew I didn't want to do that stuff that I was doing. But the fact of the matter is that I'm in it now. So I got to make the best of it while I'm in it. So I'm going to be the best that I can possibly be to my ability. So I took it up levels that, you know, that my mother didn't envision that for me. And I wasn't that kind of person either. I was always very was always a good person. I wasn't foul. So a lot of stuff that went down in there, I just certain things that I learned and I entertained it because of who was around me. But even so, with even stuff that they was doing, I'm like, nah, I ain't getting in, or I ain't getting in it for that. You know what I'm saying? But it's always a conflict of interest, and it'll go against your good judgment, especially if you were raised with people who have good principles in life. You know what I'm saying? So you always at conflict.
No, I love that. And you know what I think too is something that I don't talk about often on the show, is that sometimes we talk about grief in terms of like loss of loved ones, you get fired or things like that. But it sounds like from what I'm hearing in your story is sometimes we bring the grief on ourselves. And so it's not just these situations that, oh, this just happened to me and life's so unfair and I'm all pissed off and hurt. But like, you sought that out. You made a decision, you got into it. And so I think it's important for people to realize that too, because sometimes it's easier for us to play the victim mentality. Like, oh, woe is me. Life's so difficult. Life's so hard. But sometimes what was our decision making like?
Let me tell you something. I've always been the person to own up. I ain't never blamed nobody for nothing. When I was in prison, I wrote my father a letter because I know in a lot of ways he blamed himself for how the decisions that I made and how I came out. He felt like he could have made more money. He felt like he could have been more present in my life because he was only going off of what he knew to be right. Like, you know, he was the oldest of 8 or 9, you know what I'm saying? So his father died when he was 11. So now you going off of what you think to be true of how a man is supposed to raise a kid. But it's a lot more to it than just saying, all right, you good, get out my face. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more than just being there and giving somebody money. You know what I'm saying? And I like I said, I didn't get that from him. Everything that I ever got, I had to earn on my own. So I just think that he blamed himself for my attitude and how I turned out. And but I mean, at the end of the day, man. What
was the letter you were asked? What were you telling him that it wasn't his fault?
I was just telling him like it was just not your fault, bro. Like you don't have to blame yourself for how I turned out. I was grown. I made my own decisions. I didn't have to. I could have been patient. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, I just, you know, going through when you in school, like, I remember, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm coming to school with, like, holes in my shirt, bleaches on my clothes, and I'm like, you want to look fly. You want to look fresh. You know what I'm saying? I did it because I didn't want to be that person. So certain things I realized my parents couldn't give me that I wanted. You know what I mean? It's hard. Like when you go into school, when you just working a little part-time gig, you ain't got no bread. Mm-hmm. You broke. Mm-hmm. So it's like you don't want to look like what you going through. So you do whatever you got to do. Plus, I didn't want to quit school. I'm realizing like, damn, I need all this equipment. I need X, Y, Z, da, da, da. You know what I mean? I wanted to drive. I wanted to pay for car insurance. I wanted to have shit. Not that. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's all right. You good.
You know what I mean? I wanted to have stuff. So I didn't want to be on my back. You know what I mean? And I liked having things. So ever since I was young, I always wanted more. When I was 4 years old, I never even knew I said this. My mom told me, said I want to have my own. I want to have my own business. I want to do X, Y, Z. And this is 4.
Yeah.
4 years old. I'm saying I don't know nothing about business. I just literally just came out the womb 4 years ago. You know what I mean? How do I know something about a business? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. But I knew that I wanted more. I knew I didn't want to struggle. I didn't want to have my future kids to struggle. I didn't want to have my wife doing that. I don't want my mom working. You understand what I'm saying? So I realized that sometimes you got to go the extra mile in order to make certain things happen. I just channeled it into the wrong energy. You know what I mean? And like I said, my decisions that I made, I own up to that, man. I don't blame nothing on nobody. Even though it was around me and I seen it, and everybody who was around me was doing X, Y, Z, man, they like, man, yo, go stay in school, man. Like, you don't need to be out here with us. But you can't tell that to somebody when you around somebody counting stacks of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got you jewelry on, you going out all the time, you living your best life. Mm-hmm. I'm over here struggling, like, bro, I had to beg money to get back on the train this morning.
Right.
So I'm gonna do what I need to do in order to make happen. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because people knew they couldn't tell me nothing because they seen it in my eyes. Like, bro, I'm gonna get it regardless of whether you give it to me or not. Mm-hmm. That's why the older dudes that I looked up to was like, you know what, I'd rather give it to him and have him get it for me than go out in the street. At least I could watch him, make sure that he good, instead of going this person and potentially something happened to him. So they feel like they was helping. You
I think
feel
it's
me?
interesting that there's actually some kind of ethical code in the streets. And what I'm saying is that it's like, well, we all out here, so let's try to look out for each other, because I do think that the hustle, the game, and all that, it gets a bad rap, and it does. And I got my own personal issues with that. That's just because of people in my life that use drugs and all that. It was like it's like they make their own decision, but I still get mad at people who push this and do this. And then I ask somebody who hustle, I'm like, yo, why? How can you just willingly do that? Like, so we talk about bringing grief and sorrow to people. Like, you're really playing a major part in this. And this is the true answer that he said. I won't say his name. They're going to get it regardless.
Nah, it's a fact.
So why not get it from me? Like, if I stop hustling, that your dad's not going to stop getting high. And you don't really want to hear that. I was like, all right, I do feel kind of played.
I'm gonna tell you how real it is, right? So I had a cousin that got high. You know what I'm saying? She smoked coke and all that, and she knew that I dealed. I tried to dodge her for months. She would literally find out where I was at. I don't know how she got out. Like, how'd you get out here? Like, how did you find me? But she would not stop because all her friends were telling her about what I had. And she like, yo, like, I'm going to get it from somewhere else. She started getting bad when she started coming to my grandma's house. I'm like, yo, you bugging. Like, now I'm going to put hands and feet on you because you coming over grandma's house, you bugging. But she know that you got stuff in here.
Wow.
So now you about to, I got to deal with you because now you beating on the door, you messing with the gate.
They always find a way to do that.
Exactly. And you know what? What that person said is real and it's true, but that don't make it no better.
It doesn't.
You know what I mean? Like, it's when you have, the bad part about it is, man, I did a lot of cold stuff, but I had a conscience at the end of the day, man. I ain't like getting kids involved, pregnant people, old ladies. Like, I just didn't. Like, it's just like you always at a point of conflict. Like, you know, it's funny, right? I remember my cousin, he used to hustle for me, and he was like addicted to pills. So like one day I really felt like I wanted to hurt him so bad because I'm like, bro, just the second time you messed up money, I'm getting tired of taking care of you. And I was like, this is my first cousin. This is somebody I went to barbecues with. Mm-hmm. This is somebody, when I had my party for my birthday party in second grade, messed up my Batman toy. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm really about to hurt this dude. Seriously, like, and I had to think about it, like, I'm really about to really do some damage to my cousin. This is somebody I love, like somebody I thought I loved. That's when I knew it was like, I had to cut him off because I'm like, bro, you about to make me do something I'm gonna regret because you just being irresponsible. But you can't. What did I say? I used to say something. I used to say you can't expect good things to come from a bad situation. You can't expect for people to act rational when we live an irrational lifestyle.
That's
so
facts.
I could not expect for him to, act like he has sense when you off your rocker, man. You know what I mean? You can't expect nobody to act like that. So I just was like, you know what? And it was just, that's how I knew more and more I got deeper in it. I just realized, and it's funny because the reason why I say like it's funny is because when you're doing it, you're just doing it. It's like you're on autopilot. You don't realize that you're doing it.
Right.
But then we get those times when you're around somebody that's making sense or you smoking and you're just in a whole nother zone. And my grandfather died when I think I was a senior in high school. Yeah, my grandfather died and I seen him every day. And one day I just was sitting and I realized that he didn't want me doing this. Mm-hmm. And you feel sad, like realizing that, the person that that you figured out that was your biggest fan and wanted the most success for you, realized that you didn't want that person once you doing those activities. So I felt pain from that, and
Yeah,
I was always at conflict, man.
Yeah, that's tough. I know your grandparents were big in your life. Well, at least I'm assuming. Are you talking about your grandparents?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely,
Cool.
yep.
So I understood that, and that is true. And I think that when we lose people, and so sometimes I get frustrated because I feel like when I lost my grandmother, like I wasn't really in a place where I wanted to be. And I wasn't necessarily doing anything bad, but it's just so many things to accomplish. But I know my brother, and I'm putting him out there. My younger brother, he was saying that it bothered him that my grandmom died worrying about him. So like when she died, he wasn't at a place where he is now and where he got past that point. So it did actually encourage him and inspire him to do it. So like kind of similar to what you're saying. So I can't really emulate that or relate to the fact that when my person passed, I was not really doing the right thing. But but I would say this, and I'm gonna just go out on a limb. I think that he would be proud of you now. For sure, and what you're doing, because we'll get into that part about another shocker for me, knowing you for so long, is when I saw that you were rapping. I'm like, rapping? How is a person that doesn't talk rap? Like, let me understand this. And so I'm like, that's interesting. And I listened to it, and it seems like it's more to telling stories, of course, and then more so like conscious. Like I just watched a video of you performing, I think in Camden, and just like listening to it. And so it's like big extremes, if that makes sense. So everything that you've told us thus far, you was in this point where you were essentially self-inflicting this grief upon yourself, and then making sure that you transition into something better, and making that happen, to me is not something that everyone can do.
No, want to know why? I'm gonna explain to you why. When I wake up in the morning and I have no problem with the person that I see at all. I'm very conscious of it, and I like the person who I look in the mirror. Before, it wasn't like that. I ain't like who I was. So with that being said, I just started going through changes. And the thing about life is when, the higher powers see that you're trying to make a change in your life, it'll bring certain people around you in order to push that change. So I wanted it. But you got to want it, though. You can't just be getting in grief and drama. Not saying that when I went to jail and I came home that I stopped and everything was clean, because it wasn't. You understand what I'm saying? But it had to be something so extreme in life that I had no other choice, that I had to change. It was either that, keep doing that, and keep going down that same road. You got to understand, man, I was in and out the game since I was 15.
Why is jail not enough to help people? So I'm wondering this, and when I don't mean necessarily help, but I mean like bro, like you're just telling me about all of this self-inflicted grief, all this drama, this crazy life, and just not even whatever. Then you go and we just say, yo, we call it. You had to sit down. So you sat down, but then you got out and you got back in it. So why? Like I mean, for real, I'm panicked. Imagining being for real, like in this little thing. Like when I think about the doors clanking closed, like I don't think I could do it. So how is that not enough to make you not want to do it?
I'm gonna tell you why. Because all this stuff is jail. You're incarcerated from the moment that you start picking up the bag, the moment that you start living that lifestyle, to the point that you behind the wall. I'm gonna explain that why. Think about it. We don't know nothing about making cocaine. We don't go fly in the airplane and bring the bud over here. Well, it's legal now, but it wasn't back then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The prescription drugs, they know what they doing. It's enough for us. The doctors prescribe it. They can put it out there on the street whenever they want. All that the turning coke, the crack. That regardless of what people want to say about the homie Rick Ross, that was orchestrated. Somebody taught him how to do that. They already know, regardless of where you from, if drugs has all been popping in the black community forever. Not saying the good popping,
right,
but it's there. You understand what I'm saying? And they know who to give it to. Right? So we already in a state of stress. We are in a state of trying to figure things out. We trying to find our place in society. What does that create? That creates anxiety already from the moment you step out the womb. And it's in the music.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? It's on the TV, right? And then it's in your peers. Where you gonna go? That's called jail. That's jail. That's jail. You can't escape it. Jail, you not going nowhere. You sitting in here until we say we open up them gates and your bid is done. Same thing with the game, with the streets. You had good kids get turned out all the time. Listen, ever since I've been in it and ever since I left, I still see young boys still getting involved in it that have no business doing it. Why? Because it's the influence. If your cousins is doing it, your neighbors is doing it, the homies in school is talking about it, the music is talking about it, the thing that makes it fly for you to get fly came from that lifestyle. You locked in.
I never heard it broken down like that, honestly. And I've always wondered that. And when I'm telling you that I am praying that these cameras got that because they're being weird for me. But I'm telling you right now, that was so powerful because I've never thought of it that way. I have always said, what is it going to take? Like, why do you keep doing this and getting in trouble?
There's other elements to that too. I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize. There's other elements to that too. Jail don't reform people. People reform people. You can go listen. Jail. It was one other person in there from Lawnside that was in there with me. I ain't gonna put his business out there, but everybody else was from Camden, Patterson, Elizabeth, Newark, Jersey City. We were all in. It was a melting Jersey pot in there. You feel what I'm saying? So in that instance, you gotta understand, Camden not that big,
right?
So, yo, what up, bro? Like I ain't seen you since 6th grade. So you gonna go connect with the homie like it's a family reunion.
Right.
It's a vacation. Oh, I'm be locked in with the homie for 5 years? Oh, we could catch up. It's been 20 since we ain't seen each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Same thing with every other city. It's a reunion. So but this is not good, but this is how they thinking when they going in there.
Right.
Oh, I'm be good. I'm locked in with the homies. Why you think that gang culture got so popular? Everybody wasn't blooding and cripping until somebody came home that was in jail and came home and started spreading it around like wildfire. And then after that, then the music started picking up on it after that. You got to remember, when we was growing up, blood and cripping was only on the West Coast.
Right.
It ain't start becoming popular until what? The late 90s, early 2000s, when it started spreading like wildfire. How does it spread? You send somebody, he might have committed a crime in elementary. He might have went up top, what they call down at Jamesburg. Might have went to Jamesburg. He up top with all these other factions. And the only way he gonna survive is if he get down with such and such. Not unless you just like that and they just like, you know what, homie cool, he mind his own business, we're gonna leave him alone. But they don't look at you as a person in there. The guards look at you as a number. The gang members, they look at you as a potential person, a potential pup. So they not. I'm telling you, it's crazy because it's by design. You know what I mean? They know that we're gonna end up going back and forth and going to jail. Because what happens when you go to jail? You got a felony now. You got a felony that leave very little opportunity for you. Now you got very little opportunity. You got an F on your ticket. What you going to do? You went from making thousands and thousands of dollars, some millions,
right?
And now you about to go work at Mickey D's,
right? Facts.
And then they let you out. You go in the same place that they let you out at. So you faced with the same trials as when you left. They still outside. Now the young boy that you might have seen, he was with little such and such. Little such and such, not little no more.
Right.
He doing something.
Yeah, exactly.
And you walking around about to catch the 403 going to work. How's that going to make you feel? I know how it made me feel. It made me want to get my hands dirty again. And it's crazy. But listen, the Reform Act does not come from jail. It doesn't come from the streets. It doesn't come from gangs. It doesn't come from police. That's why you gotta have a good family, man. You gotta have family. If you don't have family, man, it's gonna be hard for you.
Yeah.
When I came home, my family was a great part of my reform. Even though I was still doing stuff, they still was a good part. It made me start like, you know what? I gotta start thinking about taking a way out like now. You understand? And I had to, and they made me feel bad for what I was doing. Like, they like, Steve, you would just
Right.
What do we got to do? Like, you know what I mean? When my mom, she sat down, she cried in front of me, and she just said, "What do I have to do?" My grandma did the same thing, banging on the table. What do we got to do to stop you from doing this? We didn't raise you like that. But to see the crazy part about it is, ain't nobody raised like that. It's learned behavior. You learn that, man. You don't when we go to school, what they got? Hey, yo, check it out, right? They got the homie in the back, like, yo, I'm about to teach y'all how to cook up some work. Nah, it ain't how it work like that.
Right.
You learn that on outside.
Right.
You learn that because it's in your environment. You learn it because what's cool. It looks appealing. Yo, it turned me out when I seen my man ride through in a what do you have? A drop top Corvette, yellow. No, I ain't never seen that in real life before. Brand new. I'm like, how'd he get that? He got it from doing XYZ. Right. My mom told me that was bad. But Mom Duke's got an old bucket.
Right.
Who you gonna follow?
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
the
true.
Money talk, man. Money talks, man. And that's what's messing with the youth now, is that it's too big of an influence on them.
Yeah, I think I'm learning that right now in this conversation too, and I haven't really looked at it that much. Is like the impact that money actually has on our grief, right? Because and I'm always going to bring it back to grief because it's the Grief Bully podcast, and that's what we like to talk about here. But it's really deep sorrow and it's trauma. But if you think about it, like you said, it's getting people in the street to hustle. And then it's also causing us to feel less than because we don't have it. And then we're willing to do whatever to get it. And then there's these wars. And then obviously people are being killed. And that's happening. People are dying from... It's just like a cycle. But what I think is, and I'm going to ask you this, do you think that conversations like this that we're having really matter? Like, why, how can this even... Okay, so somebody watches it, what does it matter?
First off, they got to take the steps in order to actually watch what we doing. Doing the right thing don't seem cool to everybody. You understand? It don't seem fun doing the right thing. We got to make it cool to be yourself and be all right. Because right now, what's going on is that we ain't doing nothing but following what the next person do. Look, I'm telling you, it's so real, man. I'm telling you, it's all by design. Twitter, followers. Instagram, followers.
Facts.
TikTok, followers. I'm following you.
Yeah, I'm following you. Yeah, I follow you. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The only one that, and Facebook, they so devilish. Look, check it out. Facebook, friend request. You don't know this nigga?
Right.
But he your friend though.
He your friend.
You going all your business. He don't know you from a can of paint.
Right.
But he just figured out your life from something, a post that you put up there. He's able to message you.
Poke you.
Right. My nigga.
That was a weird thing. I hate that. I hate that. I don't think they have it anymore, but it used to be like, so-and-so just poke you.
I still get them.
Oh, and I'm like, wow, I don't like that.
I still get them.
The thought of somebody poking me that I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. You see where I'm going with it?
Right.
It's weird. And it's crazy because it's called social media, but it's making everybody anti-social.
Right. That's true.
How many times you seen somebody that was your friend on social media? You might have seen him in a store or something. You like, oh, that go what's the name? But I ain't gonna say that.
Right, and you DM like, I think you DM them like, I think I saw you at. Somebody be like, yeah, I think I just saw you. Was you? But it's so weird. Like, you saw me. Why didn't you say something?
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's so weird, and this is coming from a person. I'm socially awkward. Like I'm socially awkward. Like I spend probably 85% of my time by myself. Only time I'm out and I'm talking to people when I'm doing stuff like this. Or I'm at a show, or I'm doing some type of event where I have to sit down and I have to talk. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or I'm dealing with one of my clients that I deal with. That's the only time I'm talking. Other than that,
and by his clients, he means his graphic design business.
Yeah, look,
he
listen,
doesn't mean those.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a crazy massage dude. I don't do no crazy stuff.
He's not in the streets no more.
No,
so
absolutely not. Listen, we call them custies. They not clients. Okay,
right.
All right. I have my own graphic arts business because I know y'all listening. I have my own graphic arts business. It's a registered business. Okay, I pay taxes, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was just funny because you was like, I'm dealing with my clients, and like the way you handle it, I'm like, he's not doing that.
Listen,
he's not doing that no more.
But you gotta peep the hand motion.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was like,
listen, when you.
All right, let's see.
That's the hand motion you use when you on the move.
Okay.
I'm not. No,
okay.
Listen. This went
He educating us.
Exactly.
So I mean, I'm not really trying to get in the game.
No, listen. Listen, I'm trying to keep you away from there. That's why I'm telling my story.
Yeah, even though, just going back to the fact that we've known each other for so long in terms of being young. Right. I remember, I don't see, we had like, for y'all that are listening, there was like either like 2 4th grade classes, 2 whatever classes. But there was I don't know if it was 3rd or 4th grade, but we were like bagging up pencil sharpeners in like pencil sharpen stuff into like a sandwich bag thing, and somebody was like passing around like acting like we were like selling weed, which is like why we were doing that, where we saw it, I don't know, but that definitely happened.
But listen, man, you know what's crazy is that we talk about a lot of, you know, the people that we grew up with. Yo, man, I ain't gonna put nobody business out there, nobody personally, but yo, a lot of moms got high, yo. And I didn't realize that till I was outside. And I'm like, yo, that's why what such and such act like that.
Right.
Because they on drugs.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it just like, I had to cut somebody off because it was just, I was like, yo, that's, and it's fun. It was weird. I remember they called me. I walked into the place that they was chilling at. I walked in. I said, oh, that's what's the name. Yo, come outside real quick. The person who called me, I like, come outside real quick. Look, listen, I'm gonna give you what you need, but don't call me if they here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I still had principles with my situation. You understand? But it's just like nah, that's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it keeps going back to that. I mean, I think is so much, and that's why these conversations, especially like having you on, being a black man, and like all of that, because I mean, and listen, black women having conversations too, because there's not every black woman is just this open, strong. I'm gonna tell y'all, it's not even like that. But being able to have these conversations about our past and our traumas in our life, but is really showing too that we really just don't know what people be going through, and that's why I be pushing empathy and compassion and just like, listen. You don't know that person's story. Like, you don't know what's going on. People could look at my life, too, and been like, oh, you got this good life. Oh, you're, you know, this basketball player. You're doing these things. But for me, honestly, like, that put extra pressure for me to feel like everybody knew my business. Everybody, you know, knew my life. And everybody knew everything that was going on. And so you never know what somebody is going through. But just err on the side of this caution. Everybody's going through something, and everybody's got some sort of trauma, some sort of secret, some sort of burden, something. So if we could just think, before I snap on this person or before I do this, I'd rather you ask me, what do you have going on? Like, what is wrong with you in your life? Because I need you to tell me something to justify this craziness before I slap you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something like that. Like, let's give people that. I'm going to give you one ticket to tell me what is wrong with you. Was your mom not there? Your dad? What happened? Tell me before I snap.
No, it's crazy. Me, I ain't want nobody to ask me that. I ain't want nobody to talk about it. I want to be like, look, listen, man, you got a solution for my problem? Because if you don't, I don't even want to talk about it. Because like you said, I wasn't a talker. And it's crazy that you say that you didn't understand when you was going through something. I haven't seen you and talked to you in years, but I could tell you was. You want to know why? Because a person that go through grief and going through something can smell it on somebody else. And you can feel it. That's why they said the world revolves around energies, man. You could smell it. You could feel it in the room. You know what I mean? You could tell if Dev was sitting in here and he wasn't saying nothing to nobody, right? And he just one word answers. Yo, something happened to him. Like, you know what I mean? He having a bad day or something. It's just the energy that jumps off of that person. You understand?
Yeah.
And you can see it as clear as day. You know what I mean? So, you know, you recognize grief on other people.
Yeah, that's definitely facts, man. I think it's a beautiful thing that we can even have this conversation. When I was starting a podcast and I was telling people like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make this podcast about grief, I'm thinking, what do you think? And this is where people I think make a big mistake, is that they ask people their opinion too much and invalidate that. So, hey, I'm starting this podcast on grief. What do you think? People are like, oh, grief. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like this thing. Like, people don't really be wanting to talk about the people that died. They be wanting to keep it to the chest and all that. And then someone else said, you might not have enough like content because like how many conversations can you have about grief? And immediately I'm like, yo, you don't know, because this is episode 102. Listen. So, and it's just the beginning, but we got to keep doing this because it's not going to stop no matter what that sorrow is, whatever that grief is, that trauma, whatever. But I do want to try to think about this part of it. So I joked in the beginning about you being a rapper being like shocking to me. So as we kind of start to wind down things, how did we transition from that? Like, when did you start music, and then let's just go with that. When did you start that?
See, what a lot of people don't
start your career.
Yeah, see, what a lot of people don't know is my family was always into music. My grandfather was a traveling blues and jazz player. My grandmother played the piano. So did my sister. My uncle played the piano, right? Did I say my grandmother?
Nope.
No, my grandmother played it. My grandmother played instruments. My uncle played the drums. My mother was an aspiring singer. So I was always around music my entire life.
And you don't sing because your voice sounds like it's.
Listen, we're not gonna get into that. You know what's crazy?
God didn't give you that voice
listen,
and it can't sing.
I did. It's crazy. I was in the studio yesterday working with somebody, and I don't even call it singing, man. I'm not a singer. Don't call me and ask me to do nothing like that. Look, but check it out though. When I did it and I harmonized on the record. Like, bro, you don't do this all the time? I'm like, nah. He said, this man sound like Barry White on the record.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you got I can feel it. Like, like when he's talking, you guys, his voice is like vibrating.
Look, check it out though, right? I ain't never tell nobody this story, right? So there was this one girl, right, I was dealing with, right?
You hear how his voice it started changing more when he started be like, it was like this one girl, like, yeah.
You gotta relax, though, chill. So right, I really like this girl, right? And me. To me, when you reveal and open yourself up to somebody, it's like a sign of weakness. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna let her know all this stuff about me. I gotta keep it some stuff secret. But she said the same thing. She said, yo, I know you can sing, yo. You got the kind of voice for. Yo, let me tell you how I sung a hook to this girl. She said, oh, I knew you could do it. Yo. I can't curse on here, but I felt like a female dog after that was done and over with, man. I felt like less of myself. I was like, yo, why did I just do that? But no,
you gotta use what you got. You gotta use what you got to get what you want, because there's no way that you can't. Crazy. You can make. I'm sure you can make it. But anyway, I interrupted you. So you started. Your family's about music, and then you got into it.
Yeah. Then I fell in love with like poetry at a young age. So my grandmother used to write poetry. I'm telling you, it all come from somewhere. My grandma, I was a nosy kid, so I was always in stuff. My grandma used to have a poetry book, so I'm reading it. I said, Grandma, I never know you did poetry before. She said, yeah, I write it. Because she would always go in her little room and be by herself, but that was when she was writing the poetry. So I tried to do what she do, and it just so happened that rap was popular. So I started doing my own stuff, and there's little by little. First off, when it came to lyrics, I can remember never nothing I wrote. I wrote like chicken scratch. So how you gonna remember something that you can't read? So I had problems with that. But then as I got older, I met people that had the same interests in me, and we formed a group. Crazy thing about that group was we were supposed to get a management deal, and at the time it was cassette tapes and CDs and stuff like that, right? So the dude that was supposed to be signing us to the deal, one of my homies brought it back to us. He like, bruh, like, what y'all think about this? It looked like it was bootleg. It was all scratched off. And we was young, but we still knew it didn't look right. We're like, nah, man, get rid of that, man. He went and forged the contract himself for us. He ended up taking all our music and ran off with it.
Wow.
So we don't know what happened to any of them songs. So we broke up. We kind of fell off, and that's when I started getting my hands dirty in the middle of that. So I want to say I started writing music around like 11, 12. Then I started taking music more serious, 15 and 16. Then I stopped, and I came home in 2011, and I started taking it seriously when I was like 24.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. And he's still going now. And so it's Stevie Franks. You got some new music right now. I'm appreciating it. And is it Make It Go?
Making It Go. Yeah,
Making It Go.
You was close. You was good.
I know, but I pictured it in my head, and I know it was MAKIN. So I just had to get to that part. So Making It Go. So that's definitely a fire track. And I want to make sure that they know where they can follow you, find you. Not follow you, where they can.
No, listen, we already know the technicalities of it. It is what it is, you know what I mean? All right, so you want me to get a rundown now?
Just where they can follow you.
You can find me on Instagram, Stevie Franks the Artist. You can find me on Twitter, Stevie Franks Rap. You can like my music page, Stevie Franks Music with a K. Snapchat Stevie Franks 100. For all updates on shows, new music, and everything else like that, you go to the website, therealsteviefranks.com.
Just like that. So listen. So on my show, I like to do a part of it called In Love and Memory segment. It's important for me to make sure that we highlight some of our loved ones and just give them a shout out, because sometimes it's easy that they get forgotten. Things happen and then we don't think about it anymore. So with having you on your show, I want to give you a second to just shout out some of your loved ones that's not with us anymore, that we can just send love to you and your family.
Yeah, shout out to my grandfather. Like I said, hopefully he proud of me for the transition that I made. Shout out to my Uncle Jake. He passed away the same exact year that my grandfather did. Hopefully everything is good, and if I'm forgetting everybody, because in between, it's been a lot. So, hopefully that, like I said, when I leave up out of here, I want to be immortal. I don't want to be forgotten about. So it's not about being forgotten about in a selfish way, but knowing that I left a mark on the world that was positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. So listen, Stevie Franks, if you had to choose a color for your grief, what would it be and why?
I'm an artist and I can't.
I'm about to say, you're an artist, so don't come with some color that we don't know.
Nah, I would say black, because black is the beginning color of the spectrum, right? And also, before the universe was created, it was black, right? But black is also a representation of what it's meant to be dark. But it's a reflection upon the struggle that every single African American man goes through in America, to have to make choices. You got two roads to take. You get to take the right one or the left one. And the crazy part about it is the lines are even blurred with that, because the right one might seem right at the time and the wrong one might be wrong, but it can have some right traits to it. So I would say black.
Listen, we cannot end this episode any better than that. I'm not even going to try to go behind that. All I'm going to say is, listen, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I appreciate it. It was great to see you in person and not just like poking you and liking and loving and all that on social media, and really see you in real life. Guys, listen, we just wrapped up episode 102 of the Grieffully podcast. We had Stevie Franks on. It's absolutely amazing episode. Follow him. Check him out. His music is fire. He's always got videos and just so much great stuff going on. Y'all
burning the budget.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Show love. Leave comments. Y'all already know where I hang out the most. Definitely follow me there at I_am_J.Nicole, guys. So next time, you already know. Love and light. Peace.